He's a 20th century guy trapped in the dark ages.
Just send me back to my own time, pronto, today.
Now he's got a date.
Give me some sugar, baby.
With the Army of Darkness.
Groovy.
Rated R. Starts Friday, February 19th, everywhere.
Body burns can be some of the most visually exciting stunts in the movies. But inside of every walking ball of flame is a highly trained professional working closely with a hand-picked team of stunt masters. Twilight signals the start of a new day on the set of the movie Army of Darkness. In the next 8 hours, the stunt team will attempt 3 dangerous fire burns.
Ash has been fighting his evil duel, and it comes to a head here where he grabs the torch and sets this guy on fire and kicks him off the castle wall.
Practice and action.
A 20-year veteran, stunt coordinator Chris Doyle swings into action, blocking the scene with director Sam Рэйми. They're a team again after their last big hit, the suspense thriller Darkman.
It's gonna get really warm up there.
Plus, he's gonna be
real warm up there.
Two of tonight's fire burns will be performed by Chris himself. The third, by stuntman Tim Trella.
Once he's ignited, I want to be able to cut back to this shot and see the torch going away from his face.
So get it started, bring it past, and then as soon as he's going, then back out.
Final rehearsals are done with the Army of Darkness star Bruce Kэмpbell, who also starred in Sam Raimi's cult horror hit Evil Dead 2. Bruce will light Chris on fire and must know exactly where to aim the torch.
And action!
Cut. Finally, it's time for Chris to suit up. There will be literally nothing separating him from the flames except 3 pairs of fire-resistant long underwear soaked in a special gel and his costume. When he's ready to go up in flames, Chris uses a special secret fuel that helps him keep his cool in a hot situation.
The burn's a lot nicer than just gasoline or rubber cement, and as fire goes, I feel it's a lot safer. I have a lot more confidence in this fuel.
All right, clear now. Standing by. Roll camera.
Ready, and action. Great, Chris. Oh, man.
Did you stay here long enough to do this?
Yeah, you did. Excellent.
The first burn went perfectly, but it was the easiest stunt. The stunt team must immediately begin preparing for 2 even more difficult burns. For the next one, Tim, doubling the star, will swing and kick a flaming Chris off the castle wall. He'll fall about 5 feet onto a raised platform. But the stunt safety team is concerned Chris may fall off the side of the platform. So they've put up slats of plywood to prevent that from happening.
Chris will like me. So, and then he's got to run. So watch him. So when he's out of your shot, then you can call action. I'll just listen for action.
Again, the cast and crew rehearse their every move. This is a dangerous scene and should not be shot twice.
Go! Action. Good. That's all I need.
Stand by. Line, please. Ready, sir. Stand by.
And background.
Roll camera.
Action. Got it.
Cut.
Keep an eye on him. Got it. We're fine.
Thank you.
Tired and scorched, the stunt team must now get ready for the third and most deadly fire burn of the night. An important shot for the director.
Yeah, now we're going to get you going over the wall.
Over the wall, 25 feet to the mats below. Tim Trella, who's been assisting Chris up till now, will take over and do the fall engulfed in flames.
You don't have as much sight. Your vision is really impaired, so a lot of it becomes instinct.
After Tim's practice fall, the crew is finally ready for the most treacherous work of this long night.
We go. And background. And action.
Talk to us.
How are you, Chris?
Okay, go ahead, rip it off. There's a beauty.
Woo! Daddy!
Go ahead.
Yeah, that was a nice one. That turned out real well in this picture.
Chris and Tim brave the flames, becoming human torches. But with technology and careful planning on their side, they beat the flames and emerge with a sizzling scene. For these two stuntmen, it's been a hot, action-packed 8 hours.
Director Sam Рэйmi, who created the memorable film Darkman a few years ago, is back with the 3rd installment of his Evil Dead series. It's a movie with a difference. Dennis Michael went behind the scenes.
Keene Castle, nice windmill, but don't plan to go visit them. They're models photographed on the stages of Introvision in Hollywood, where much of Army of Darkness was assembled. Using a special photographic process, real actors interact with unreal estate.
When you come onto the stage, you look and the stage is bare. But when you look through the eyepiece of the camera, the entire set is there. And when you cue your actor, he walks in and through the eyepiece of the camera, he's inside that setting that you've created with Introvision.
Shots in Darkman and Stand By Me were created by Introvision, but Army of Darkness is a landmark for the process. Nearly 2/3 of the film uses Introvision shots of one kind or another.
Using the Introvision process, we're able to take photography plates of a miniature or stills of a miniature and project them behind the actors, and in that way create the illusion that they're in front of this castle without actually having to pay for the large-scale construction of it.
And Introvision lends itself to the use of stop motion and so-called go-motion animation sequences. It's something that the film's star, Brus Kэмpbell, had to get used to, along with his makeup in certain sequences.
Usually, as a phony-baloney actor, I've got to act opposite someone who's not there anyway in a special effects movie. And in this case, nothing's there. I'm assured that behind me, it looks fantastic.
How do they do that? That's part of our technology, and it's a rather long-winded explanation. But suffice it to say they do it very well.
Army of Darkness has hoped to bring the Introvision process to the attention of more of Hollywood. It's a special effects process that actually lowers the cost of making a film rather than raising it. Dennis Michael, CNN Entertainment News, Hollywood.
This week on The Big Picture, why are these people smiling? We'll take you inside the Oscar nominations and set Randy Kagan loose in the press room. Plus the wild world of the Coen brothers, the shaky cam of Sam Рэйmi, and Sandy and Daryl's take on Groundhog Day. Well, opening this week in theaters across America is Army of Darkness, the latest slice of cinematic daring from cult hero director Sam Рэйmi. Now, for the last 11 years, Raimi's dazzling camera work, I mean, he virtually created that whole shaky cam thing, and his wicked sense of humor have really made him unique among horror directors. His two best-known movies, Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, were both so gory they were released without MPAA ratings. His most recent film, Darkman, saw him move out of gore and into more psychological horror, but he's back. Fresh out of Michigan State, Sam Рэйmi and some college pals wanted to make a cheap slasher pick full of soon-to-be-dead teens in the woods. The result, 1983's Evil Dead, shot for $350 grand.
We had a very limited amount of money, and we had to make a very cheap and cheesy picture. So we decided, well, we'll just keep it in this one room in a small cabin, and the cheapest kind of horror is a bunch of people that are painted with white faces pretending they're zombies. So we'll work in those artistic confines.
Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 became Scream of Consciousness classics. awash in the kind of gore you can't show on TV, and propelled by some very inventive camera work.
For instance, if you wanted the camera to make a move from up here down to here, the standard technique would be to put it on a crane and swing the crane arm down. And those without money have to think, well, I guess I could swing it on a rope.
Once they figured that out, they were ready for the big time, and Darkman.
So we brought it to Universal, and they also believed in the project, and it was the only time that we'd made a picture that basically anyone under 18 was allowed to go see.
Excuse me.
The latest from Räimi Incorporated reunites the director with Evil Dead mainstay Bruce Campbell. He's not a teen in the woods anymore, but he's still ready to blow away evil.
Yeah. It was kind of an experiment in how dumb the main character could be, basically. He battles the armies of darkness with chainsaw, which he is kind of a detachable thing that he now has made a steel hand in the third part. Groovy. My brother and I, Ivan, had always wanted to make an Evil Dead film that took place in the medieval ages. We're going to call it the Medieval Dead. I think that the studio felt that since those films have such a small crowd, that they had to change the name in order to attract a wider audience. So they retitled it Army of Darkness. It's more of a marketing decision than a creative one, I think.
Get ready.
Give me some sugar, baby.
Get set.
Groovy.
Get dead. From Sam Räimi, director of Darkman, comes Army of Darkness, rated R. Starts Friday, February 19th.
Buzz on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Quick, get a shot of that woman right there. Susan Hyman, one of our producers here at Sci-Fi Buzz, and just yesterday, she was hobnobbing with the dead over at K&B Effects.
That's right.
I see you washed up just a little bit.
Oh, yes, absolutely. You know, after months and months in limbo, the third chapter of Sam Raimi's Evil Dead series, Army of Darkness, is finally here.
Cool.
So we were over at K&B. They designed the great Deadite warriors that you'll see in the movie, and Bruce Campbell, the star of the movie, went and met us over there, and we had a little fun and swordplay.
Oh, Bruce. Yeah, I understand you think he's pretty neat.
He is.
Yeah.
Cute.
Let's just watch the piece.
Yeah, swallow this.
Actor Bruce Campbell and a slew of Deadite warriors are lined up and ready to regale the legion of Evil Dead fans in Sam Raimi's long-awaited Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness picks up exactly where Evil Dead 2 left off, of a poor sap stranded in time with no hope of survival.
Now, let's talk about how I get back home.
Campbell plays Ash, an incompetent space traveler forced to confront evil 13th century forces. But the actor believes imperfections allow for propitious plot twists.
I like the fact when heroes are vulnerable. You know, the thing that bugs me in adventure movies, when they're trying to be realistic, that the guy always has to be an ex-cop or an ex-CIA or an ex-specialist. Well, show me a guy who's a CPA who's stranded on a battleship that's taken over by terrorists, and then I'll be interested. You know, then I'll be worried.
Though Campbell is the fleshy star of the movie, his cadaverous co-stars, created by the makeup effects wizards at K&B, will undoubtedly bask in the limelight as well.
Oh, that's gotta hurt!
When dealing with a rotted skeleton, we kind of just made them look rotted, and you saw bones and flesh hanging off. We did accentuate their brows a little bit, like in the old Ray Harryhausen movies, where his skeletons always had this kind of evil brow to them.
Get the hell out of there!
Darkness's $12 million budget was a big improvement over Evil Dead 1's $350,000 tab, but still modest by today's cost-swelling standards. Yet director Räimi managed to attract a top-notch cast and crew for the job.
The main reason was it was a sword and sorcery film with skeletons that come to life and fight King Arthur and his men and knights in armor, and there's sword play and all that kind of stuff. And as kids, we all grew up on that kind of, you know, Sinbad and Jason the Argonauts type movies, and we all totally were into it. We're like, oh, great, we get to make armor and we get to have skeletons that sword fight, and this is going to be cool.
After rounding up some of Hollywood's best and brightest effects people, Räimi concentrated on achieving an epic look on a non-epic budget.
He'll mash everything into his frame, from the top, from the bottom, give me poles with flags on them. If there's a hole in the middle, he'll put a flag there. You know, it's all filling it in. So he just shovels in all these visuals, and it adds up for a big sensory input.
Army of Darkness isn't splattered with the carnage and mayhem of its predecessors, but Campbell hopes audiences are no less affected by Sam Raimi's unsubtle blend of humor and horror.
I was at a screening in New Orleans, and a guy, he'd go, ha, 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 oh! And he'd get really tormented because he didn't know whether he should scream or laugh, and it was the weirdest thing watching this guy. He didn't know what to do, and I thought, that's good. We really tormented. Because Sam's theory, only he can really expound on this, but is you must punish the audience.
So if you're up for an agonizingly satisfying time, Army of Darkness is ready to deliver.
And in fact, our co-star today on Sci-Fi Buzz is from the guys over at K&B, right?
That's right.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, he's great.
Looks a little like Bruce Kэмpbell, actually.
More like you.
Imagine the Hollywood pitch meeting for this one to sell the idea for the new movie Army of Darkness. Okay, picture this. He's a guy from the 20th century. He lands among the knights of the Dark Ages, but he fights with a chainsaw and he drives a 73 Oldsmobile. Well, they bought it. The challenging task now is of actually making it work. Bruce Kэмpbell plays a 20th century man who's swept back into the Dark Ages by demonic forces. In his battle to survive, Bruce steps into an outrageous tug-of-war between the living and the dead. He confronts everything from a sword-fighting skeleton to an evil twin that springs out of his shoulder, to a handful of mean-spirited miniature versions of himself.
Ramming speed!
The special effects wizards at Alterian Studios in Irwindale, California, dreamed up many of the movie's creations, like the sword-fighting skeleton. They also created special latex prosthetics that allowed Campbell's face to stretch for this scene. Alterian's Tony Gardner says there's nothing like seeing the ideas come to life.
When you see the finished film and you realize that you're fooling people and they're buying it and they're enjoying what you've done, it's real exciting.
Gardner also gave the skeletons personalities by manipulating their faces. Campbell's two-headed effect was created from a sculpture, and in some scenes, those miniature menaces are really tiny puppets operated by hand.
This one in particular gets impaled on a chair.
Although the special effects meant extra work for Kэмpbell, he says it was worth it.
Ultimately, a film like this is tough while you're doing it, but after it's done, usually you can reap a lot of rewards.
And Kэмpbell hopes fans of special effects will also reap a lot of rewards from Army of Darkness. People who've made the weird creatures for Army of Darkness have also been called upon in the past to create very real-looking creatures. They made several lifelike make-believe buffalo for the movie Dances with Wolves.
Army of Darkness got decidedly mixed reviews from audiences we spoke with in our exclusive movie track poll.
The 12-gauge double-barreled Remington, S-Mart's top of the line. You can find this in the sporting goods department.
Many moviegoers responded well to the campy combo of comedy and horror in the movie. Overall, Army of Darkness received above-average marks, and fans of the film described it using words like unusual, funny, different, and refreshing.
Falling down! Falling down! My fair lady!
But not everyone fell in love with this film. Some moviegoers we spoke with complained that it was heavy on action, light on story. Men seemed to give Army of Darkness higher marks than did women, and younger people liked it better than did the older set. In general, moviegoers agreed, if you're looking for something serious or profound, you're in the wrong theater. If you're in the mood for a goofy send-up of the horror genre, you might want to enlist in the army of fans for Army of Darkness.
You found me beautiful once.
Honey, you got real ugly.
One moviegoer gave Army of Darkness a left-handed compliment, saying, quote, if you want to giggle, see it, because it's so bad.
Arrogance. I shall see you dead. Yeah.
That's Bruce Kэмpbell as a Kmart-style sales clerk, suddenly transported back to the Middle Ages through contact with that old movie Standby, The Book of the Dead. Somebody must have made a lot of copies of that book and laid them around in creepy forests. Anyway, in the style of the Back to the Future movies, but without that series' wit, he confronts these old English types with a modern weapon. Wow, we haven't seen that before.
The 12-gauge double-barreled Remington, S-Mart's top of the line. You can find this in the sporting goods department.
The best moments in the movie involve a rip-off of Ray Harryhausen's stop-action animated skeletons from Jason and the Argonauts. See that instead of this picture. They're more compelling than any of the humans in this film. Only contact with the Book of the Dead can get our hero back to the 20th century, so we get a special effects game of picking book number 1, book number 2, or book number 3. Now, there's a lot wrong with Army of Darkness. The special effects, as you could see, are great, but there isn't a single interesting human being in the film. There's also very little wit, and this surprised me, no real love interest. Army of Darkness was directed by Sam Рэйmi, who made the action hit Darkman a couple of years ago. In that film, we cared about Darkman. Here, every man is in the dark.
Well, I'm not voting thumbs up on it, but I guess I liked it better than you. And one of the things I liked was the state-of-the-art special effects.
Oh, I like that
There's a lot of special effects in this movie, and they're very inventive. And I think what Рэйmi is trying to do in this film is kind of make a naked gun approach to horror movies and medieval warfare films. But the problem is, it's not that funny because most of the funny stuff in this movie was already seen in his movie from 1987, Evil Dead 2, which this one is allegedly kind of a sequel to. And I liked Evil Dead 2 so much more that I can't recommend
But you know what I'm talking about. When he's standing among the troops, the old English troops there, they're meaningless to us.
Yeah, they are.
Bruce Kэмpbell, he's pretty much of a stiff, I think. So really, you watch the special effects.
No, Bruce Kэмpbell, I think, does exactly what the role calls for.
Oh, but he could have a little more personality.
Maybe so.
When we come back, Oscar surprises. We'll look at this year's Academy Award.
When we come back, our video pick of the week, the funny offbeat horror spoof that inspired Army of Darkness. Now it's time for our video pick of the week, and I would like to recommend a strange and funny horror satire named Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn. I said earlier in the program that I was disappointed by its sequel, Army of Darkness, the Sam Рэйmi horror spoof that has great production values, but somehow seems to be recycling its comedy approach. Maybe that's because I was a fan of Рэйmi's 1987 movie, Evil Dead 2, which also starred the hard-working Bruce Kэмpbell as the bloodiest self-defense artist in horror history.
Groovy.
Evil Dead 2 is not for everyone, but for horror fans, it's one of the funniest movies of recent years. I recommend you take a look at it on home video. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed this week. A split decision on Falling Down with Michael Douglas as an unemployed worker on a rampage. I thought it struck a nerve. Gene thought the same story had been done earlier and much better. 2 thumbs down for The Temp, a movie that disappears into an impenetrable thicket of murky plotting. 2 more thumbs down for Army of Darkness, the horror film send-up that never really takes off. And so my recommendation, go see The Crying Game.
No, it's not Jason. It's just Mike Jarek. This is Sci-Fi Buzz. This is just my little homage to Jason. I'm feeling fine. Nothing wrong with me. Actually, this Friday the 13th motif is in honor of our first close-up today on Sci-Fi Buzz. The people over at K&B, fabulous makeup artists. Now, they're getting geared up for Friday the 13th, Part 9. Jason Goes to Hell. Have a nice trip. See you next sequel. Well, also, they've done other movies. In City Slickers, they did the birthing calf there. They also did the dead buffalo and Dances with Wolves. They're full of tricks at K&B.
Hi, welcome to K&B. Come on in.
Less than 5 years after banding together, the makeup effects wizards at K&B can boast of having contributed to classic scenes from films like Dances with Wolves, City Slickers, and Misery.
Makeup effects deals with anytime you're dealing with cosmetic, when you're seeing skin or you're seeing hair, things like that, where you have a creature or you have someone that has a prosthetic makeup on, like in The Elephant Man. Stuff like that. That's makeup effects. You're dealing with dummy animals, dummy bodies, prosthetics, creatures, animatronic, mechanical creatures.
Makeup effects artists are often the first ones brought onto a project once it goes into production. After all, their work will play a crucial role in the overall look of the film.
I like this ear
better than this one simply because of the fact that it kind of goes along the side of the head. There's like less hair. It looks more evil. So a lot of times when we go in and we talk to the director, we will storyboard sequences early on in the production, suggesting shots. This is the best way to shoot this. Then we take those storyboards and we show the art department. All right, we need this wall built, and it has to have a hole in so we can operate our puppet. We have to talk to the wardrobe people and say we need 5 different versions of this shirt, so when the creature rips out of it, we can do take 2. So it's a pretty monumental job, because it's not just, we're not just sitting here doing whatever we want. La 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 la. Oh, this is fun here. You know, we have to execute it all the way through. So it's a pretty big deal.
Recent K&B projects include Army of Darkness, in which their deadite warriors played a crucial role, and the upcoming Friday the 13th Part 9, Jason Goes to Hell. K&B partner Bob Kurtzman guarantees this version of the Jason tale is chock full of nasty, nifty effects.
Things are different in this film. They aren't just cut a guy's head off. We actually had creatures. After you cut the head off, something comes out. It's not just the head laying there.
Which brings us to an interesting point. What kind of person does it take to whip up these often grotesque creations?
I think a common misconception in the world is that effects guys are all really sick. People go, oh my God, that was really gross. He like picked up that heart and he bit into it. It's like, yeah, but it was a gelatin heart with like Welch's grape jelly stuck in it. It wasn't real. I mean, like, so a lot of times, and even with gross anatomy, which we did all the cadavers for, people go, oh, you guys are really sick. But it's an art form. I mean, for us, we look at it as it's a sculpture. It's a piece of urethane airbrushed and painted. We don't really look at things like it's a body, or because it's all fake.
Though K&B has had their hands in all types of movies, made on all types of budgets, they find the atmosphere on small budget sets is usually a lot of fun, whereas the set on big budget films is often much more serious.
Well, genre films tend to not take themselves so seriously, because they kind of say, well, it's a horror movie, we can have a little fun with it. You know, I remember when we were doing Dances with Wolves, it was, okay, put the buffalo over here, we're going to stake, you know, we had a little stretcher, and we were carrying our buffalo all around. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that with bigger mainstream movies, there's a lot more money involved. We're talking, you know, $30, $40 million films. Of course, there's more at stake.
But in the world of K&B, all projects are created equal. No matter what the budget, they want their makeup effects to generate a spirited audience response.
The most rewarding thing is being in a theater and hearing everyone go, no, God, they're not going to do that really, and then bam, and they do it, and everyone freaks out, and we're sitting there going, ooh. You know, that's a lot of fun, really a lot of fun.
It's demonic.
You shall die!
Let's go. It's romantic.
What of all the sweet words that you spoke?
Well, that's just what we call pillow talk, baby. It's like nothing you've ever seen. Give me some sugar, baby. From Sam Рэйми, director of Evil Dead and Darkman. Get him! Comes Army of Darkness.
Groovy.
Rated R. Starts Friday, February 19th at theaters everywhere.